Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpop coming to you in Watson, where I'm on a trip to the Laura S. Walker State Park in Georgia, right down the road from the Okefenokee Swamp National Park, National Forest, whatever it is. And today, we're going to get back to some of the old school Bible study. Very important chapter in Exodus. So we've been doing the Bible studies on the internet in the Net Bible website. But today we're going to go back to the just Bible in hand. This is one of the most important chapters in the entire Bible. People call it the golden calf, the chapter about the golden calf. Let me wet my whistle. It's a long chapter. Chapter 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron. Before I launch into it, we spent the first part of the book of Exodus finding out how Moses was going to get the people out of Egypt. He was raised in the house of Pharaoh, and then he killed a guy, and he had to leave. So he's 80 years old now. When we first started, he was being born. So this is 80 years later. And they're out in the wilderness. And Moses has been going up Mount Sinai, and God's been telling him, this is how you're to worship me, out here in the desert and when you get to the promised land. Giving him all kinds of instructions. So it was basically, I think, 14 chapters or so of them getting out of Egypt. And then up until now, they were telling about how to make the incense, how to make the clothing for the priests, how to make the artifacts for worship, how to make the altar, how to make the little portable temple that they would carry through the wilderness. And so now, he's been going up and down this mountain and finding out these things from God. And he goes up, and while he's up there, he takes a little bit longer than they like. And so what is their reaction? Is it, oh, I hope he's okay? Or is it, well, it's all about our God, so let's pray that our God keeps him alive so we can take us to the promised land? That's not what they say. So they gathered around Aaron and said to him, get up. So apparently he's sitting there. Maybe he's asleep, but they're like, get up. Get up. Make us gods that will go before us. Well, they have God going before them. They have a pillar of fire that goes before them. Moses is the disciple of God that's to lead them, and his brother Aaron is his mouthpiece, because Moses apparently was a stutterer. But they're like, no, we learned in Egypt that you can make gods and worship those gods. So Aaron, you need to make us some gods, and then we'll worship them. And then they'll lead us through the desert. Get up, make us gods that will go before us. As for this fellow Moses, this fellow, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt. We do not know what has become of him." So Aaron said to them, Aaron should have said to them, "No, that's my brother, and God's in control here." But what's Aaron say? "Break off the gold earrings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people broke off the gold earrings that were on their ears and brought them to Aaron. He accepted the gold from them, fashioned it with an engraving tool, and made a molten calf. So that's now molten means that you melt it down, and after you melt it down, you put it into a cast. So he made this cast, like a mold, and put the melted down gold into it, and made them a little calf, baby cow. Then they said, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Now this is crazy at a bunch of different levels. They witnessed the parting of the Red Sea. Before that, they witnessed all the miracles, including killing the firstborn. And I'm not going to get into what all those miracles were, but I think there were 10 of them, and they were devastating. Couldn't have been a coincidence. But these people are like, these are your gods now. And people are like this. I'm not going to go into a whole teaching on this, but people are like this. God will do something really good in their life, and then they'll be like, this is my God. Gold. A lot of people have gold as their God. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow will be a feast to the Lord." So I don't know why he used the word Lord, but he did. So they got up early on the next day and offered up burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink. And they rose up to play. So they're down here. Moses is up on the mountain, but he's with God. He's communing with God. But God's looking down the mountain. He's probably going like, and Moses is probably going, "Do I smell barbecue?" The Lord spoke to Moses, "Go quickly, descend," which means go down, "because your people, whom you brought up from the land of Egypt, have acted corruptly." So he's kind of like rubbing it in on them, because they're his people. They're not Moses' people. They've acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way that I commanded them. They have made for themselves a molten calf and have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it and said, "These are your gods, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I have seen this people. Look what a stiff-necked people they are." So stiff-necked means that they're rigid, that they're stubborn. So now leave me alone so that my anger can burn against them and I can destroy them, and I will make from you a great nation. So he's saying to Moses, like, they messed up. So I'm going to kill them all, including your brother Aaron. And I'll raise up another people because I created life on earth. I created everything. So I can do this. But Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God and said, "O Lord, why does your anger burn against your people, whom you have brought out from the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand. Why should the Egyptians say, for evil he led them out to kill them in the mountains and to destroy them from the face of the earth? Something interesting. We think of this as they're completely isolated from the world that they left. But no, this is a neighborhood of lands that people traveled through all the time. And we're going to see that, I mean, they're going to wind up involved with other nations while they're out there in the wilderness. And the Egyptians know what's going on because they devastated the Egyptians. So the Egyptians are probably sitting there going, man, we want to get them back. And so that's the whole deal. Like, yeah, guess what, Egypt? They let them out there and killed them all. That's what he's about. Turn from your burning anger and relent of this evil against your people. That's a very strong word for Moses to use. He's really serious about this. He's accusing God of committing evil. I don't know if I'd have enough guts to do that. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by yourself, and told them, I will multiply your descendants like the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken about I will give to your descendants, and they will inherit it forever. Then the Lord relented over the evil that he had said he would do to his people. So this is Moses taking over the situation and saying, hey, I might get smote, which is an old-time biblical expression. It means killed. I might get smote. But I'm going to try to get God to change his mind. Now, God never really changes his mind, and trust me, God's in control of this entire thing. Moses thinks he is, but he's not. Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands. And if you remember, it's the 10 Commandments, and the finger of God wrote them. And I think what they were is they were one letter or one word, each one of the commandments in Hebrew. The tablets were written on both sides. They were written on the front and on the back. Now the tablets were the work of God. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. And the writing was the writing of God engraved on the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, it is the sound of war in the camp. So I think what the deal was here, I forget, but I think that Joshua was halfway up the mountain, and that's where he hung out while Moses went the rest of the way up, because only Moses was allowed to go to the top. And the people weren't even allowed to touch the mountain or they would die. Sound of war in the camp. So he's hearing this like, woohoo, but they're partying. Moses said, it's not the sound of those who shout for victory, nor is it the sound of those who cry because they are overcome, but the sound of singing I hear. When he approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, Moses became extremely angry. So he went from saying, God, don't be angry, to, oh, I'm angry. He threw the tablets from his hands and broke them to pieces at the bottom of the mountain. He took the calf they had made and burned it in the fire, ground it to powder, poured it out on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. So they're drinking gold water. Moses said to Aaron, what did this people do to you that you have brought on them so great a sin? So he's blaming Aaron. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this to them? Because Aaron was in charge. He was the top guy. He was Moses' second in command. Aaron said, "Do not let your anger burn hot, my Lord. You know these people, that they tend to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods that will go before us.' For as for this fellow Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened to him." So I said to them, 'Whoever has gold, break it off.' So they gave it to me. I threw it into the fire." Now we know what really happened, but what do you think Aaron's going to say? And this calf came out. So he's saying, I told him to get the gold. And then I threw the gold in the fire, and this calf, golden calf, popped out like it's magic. So he's saying that, well, I didn't make this golden calf. It made itself. And he's kind of justifying, like, yeah, this probably is a god because it just popped out. It's called a tall tale. Moses saw that the people were running wild, for Aaron had let them get completely out of control, causing derision from their enemies. So Moses stood at the entrance of the camp and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." All the Levites gathered round him. Now this is his people. He's from the tribe of Levi. They're the priestly tribe. And he said to them, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, each man fasten his sword on his side and go back and forth from the entrance to entrance throughout the camp, each one killing his brother, his friend, and his neighbor." So now they're going to start slaughtering people. The Levites did what Moses ordered, and that day about 3,000 men of the people died. So we're talking about 1 million people, 2 million. It depends who's saying it. It's conjecture, because we only know that, 600,000? But it could have been millions of people, because there were the Israelites. There was the mixed multitude. I don't know what they call them in this Bible. But they only killed 3,000. Moses said, "You have been consecrated today for the Lord, for each of you was against his son or against his brother. So he is giving a blessing to you today." He's talking to the Levites for doing this, that they were consecrated, they were set aside to the Lord. The next day Moses said to the people, "You have committed a very serious sin. But now I will go up to the Lord, and perhaps I can make atonement on behalf of your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Alas, this people has committed a very serious sin and have made for themselves gods of gold." So I don't know why it says gods here, because it was only one God, but maybe there's certain things in the Bible that, you go, wait a minute, what's going on? But maybe maybe some of the other people were making gods too, but whatever. It's not that important. But now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, wipe me out from your book that you have written. The Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, that person I will wipe out of my book. So now go, lead the people to the place I have spoken to you about. See, my angel will go before you. But on the day that I punish, I will indeed punish them for their sin." And the Lord sent a plague on the people because they had made the calf, the one Aaron made. So but we're back to just a single golden God. Hey. Peace out.